you've been kind enough to put up a little Christmas present for our viewers, and well, for our viewers mainly, because it's going to be, if you're listening to this on audio, it's going to involve interaction with YouTube, unfortunately, because I can't do this on an audio podcast platform. If you look in the description of this video, we'll tell you what to do. I'm going to hide a couple of numbers around us somehow in post-editing, and then click on the link in the description, put your details in so we can contact you, not on YouTube, but on the link.
We will always be multi-channel, we always will be, that's who we are, but you will find more toys come down the line that you can't buy on our website, you can't buy in retail, that you can only buy from the store. And then we may or may not have something in Barcelona for you all to come and see in February next year.
Thinking of building your dream home cinema? Don't know where to start? Start with the HCA. At the Home Cinema Alliance, we connect homeowners with the very best in the business. Our members are trusted designers, installers and technology experts who know how to turn any room into a breathtaking cinematic experience. Whether you're building from scratch or converting a spare room, our members are here to help you every step of the way. Visit our website to find your local member at homecinemalliance.co.uk.
So we are at Habitech in their stunning showroom here in Basingstoke. A little bit of a drive for both of us, but you deal with Habitech. I've actually not been here before, so it's a bit of a HCA shirt on today for the interview with you, and then the immersive shirt on later when I speak to Dan about the solutions and bits and pieces they have on offer here. So for people who are watching this as a consumer, for people who are watching this who don't know who Sonos are but have not had the pleasure of meeting you, tell us a little bit about Stephen and a little about your history in the industry and how you came to work for Sonos.
Okay, well, I'm Stephen Reed. My current job title is I'm the Sonos for Professionals lead for the United Kingdom, which means that I do anything to do with installers, electricians, etc., etc. I've been with Sonos now for 16 years, and I started when it was all little white boxes, all installers, no real retail. And then over the years, we've produced so many new products, so many award-winning products over the years, which has grown our channel strategies over retail. We have a D2C business, but the installer side of our business is still a very important part of our business.
So before you started at Sonos 16 years, I can't believe that's 16 years ago. For some reason, I only thought you were relatively recent, not like nearly the age of the company. So before you went to Sonos, you were with B&O, weren't you?
I was at Bang & Olufsen. I was at Bang & Olufsen for 12 years, something like that. I was recruited by them from my previous career in the ladies' shoe trade.
Oh, okay, that's a bit of a jump.
How do you go from one to the other? They were looking for people who had luxury brand experience. I only ever worked in the luxury brand part of the shoe industry, and that's how I ended up running the very first franchise store in Marlow. And that was a concept, and then I moved in various roles with B&O until we parted company 20 years ago, 22 years ago, something like whatever it was. Then I went into Hotel AV for a little while, and then Sonos approached me. And that was an interesting time because the audio streaming didn't really exist in those days.
That was 2009,
exactly,
wasn't it? And
precisely.
Sonos was about 2006, wasn't it?
Exactly. And it was all about, Spotify. I wasn't a Spotify user, I was a CD user. And very quickly I clodded on that this was a very clever system, as so many did at the time. And it was so new. And you have to remember that when Sonos started, it was all about streaming music from the internet. And the only music that was on the internet was an illegal system. It was an illegal, Napster. It became legal, but at the time, and so when the founders of the company were going around the world, which was the idea originally, was have a little box that you plug into your Bang & Olufsen, your Sony, your Philips, your blah, 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 and it would stream music from the internet. And of course, all these manufacturers went, "You're mad."
So what's almost like the port now?
Kind of, yes, but not even as big as a port. It was literally like you could almost say it was like a memory stick, a USB stick, I suppose, that kind of thing. And that was what they went around the world, and they were like, no, CD is music. It's always going to be on a CD. It's never going to be different to that. Little did they know. And so they then went back to California, where we're from, and they went, we know this is going to work. And that's when they made the very first ZP100, and the history goes back and etc. And that's where it came from. And then they were lucky to a certain extent that the Spotifys of this world, and then the Deezers and the Tidals and the Q-Buzzes and all the rest of it suddenly came along with legal streaming music. If we hadn't had that, we probably wouldn't have survived.
It's funny because it's like I'm racking my brains now trying to remember what it is, but I remember listening to something the other day which was almost exactly the same as the classic Steve Jobs, where Steve Jobs was famous. I think he went to Sony with the idea for iTunes, and Sony basically just turned around and went, no, people are going to listen on a tape or a Walkman. And then he went, well, okay, we'll do it ourselves. And then I was watching something the other day, which I'll exert it here. I can't remember what it was now, but it was exactly the same thing. A small startup went to a massive company and went, this is what we're thinking. And they went, it's never going to work. So then basically they started doing it themselves. Yeah. So I suppose, the timing of that sort of like the iTunes and the Spotify worked quite well.
You sort of had iPods existed. So the iPods with horrible things in your ears, that was existing at the time. And so it started to come down the road. And there were lots of other manufacturers that were playing in the space. But nobody had come up with this completely wireless situation, this ability to get it from your internet onto a speaker and just play it without any wires, without anything connecting it together. That was what was new about it. So even though it was white boxes, ZP100s and then ZP90s and ZP120s.
I think I've probably still got a couple of them in the office.
ZP80s. That they were designed to be connected to speakers. But that was because most homes had speakers. So this was a matter of getting your hi-fi speakers and making them into a Sonos system. In fact, our first bundle was exactly that. It was a ZP100 white box with a pair of rebranded white speakers.
I remember that.
The BU20 bundle.
Yeah, the speakers had Sonos on them,
yes,
didn't they?
Yes, but they weren't Sonos speakers, of course.
No.
But I won't tell you who they were. But that was what we started off, because that was what existed. There wasn't any, they hadn't even thought about making all-in-one products. That was what existed in the world. And it was a very interesting time to be involved in. And little did I know when I joined them that I would be here 16 years later. I've had various roles with the company, but I've always had an interest in this side of the business, this installer side of the business. It's always been where my interest lies with it.
And has your role in Sonos always been this CI?
No. When I was first brought in, I was brought in to grow independent retail.
Okay.
That was what my remit was, to open an independent retail. Of course, in those days, we didn't have any retail products. So that was interesting. And I can remember a day where one of the businesses had placed an order for 80 units. And that doubled our sales for the week.
Blimey.
We're a different world today. But that was what it was like back in those days, because you only had these sort of 3-4 main products. It was only when we then launched really Play 3 and then Play 1 and that we then started to see these explosive sales of our product. But that was because mixture of things, having a product that you could just plug in, it would stream all your music you wanted on it. The streaming services were live and people were quite comfortable with paying their £10 a month or whatever it was for the streaming services. But back in the day, it was very different, really, really different. To try and get those products into retailers was really, really different. Whereas installers were grabbing them like nobody, because it works.
My sort of opinion of Sonos has always been that it works. I mean, we joked earlier, was like, for part of me, half the time was forget about whatever your feelings are about the brand, whether you're a consumer, whether you're a CI or whoever, a competitor. it's almost like Sonos, it works, because it does.
It does.
I mean, obviously it's technology.
It's technology, and that's it. It's a technology. It works with electricity, so everything needs power. Even if our portable products, you need to charge them, they all need power.
What do you mean Wi-Fi doesn't need Wi-Fi?
Wireless isn't wireless. Yeah.
Wireless is not wireless.
You know, it's a bit like internet isn't Wi-Fi. It makes for a very complicated world. However, we tend to make it very simple. And when installers do get behind us, this for the same reasons. We're reliable, it works, clients can use us, clients operate us. We don't really mind whether you use our app or you direct play to us or any other way of using us, whether you're using Lutron switches, Rayco lighting switches, any other form of control panels to control us. We're not really fussed about that. As long as you're using us, we don't mind how you use us. Yes, we think our app is the best, but it doesn't have to be the app that controls the Sonos system. You can use a Control 4 panel or an RTI panel or a URC panel or a NICE panel, or you can use light switches. There's a myriad of ways of controlling us.
So you say, going back to the ZP120s, ZP90s, I still have a fond for the... I remember that it's not the CR100 was the it was the one before
CR200
that,
with the wheel,
with the
wheel
wheel
you could drop in a bath.
Yeah, so that was always quite cool because you had the sort of iPod style wheel on it, and then obviously you went to the standalone controller, which I would imagine someone's. I mean, I was completely looking at doing something the other day to do with a control system.
Yes, yeah.
And I went on to eBay to think, I wonder if you could still buy like a Logitech Harmony, a Philips Pronto. Yep, you could still buy a fully working Philips Pronto. And there's a conversation that I had a few weeks ago with Stuart Tickle at AWE, was like we were discussing about when Philips pulled the plug on Pronto. But they're still working, just like a ZP120 and ZP90 would.
It was those products that made up. It was those products that one of our founders had been trying to do what our system does today. So he'd been trying to use some of these products in his home back in California, and saying, I can't make it do what I want to do. I want to have it all over the place. I want to do. They can't do that, and that's why he then had this bright moment, or one of his colleagues did. They'd owned a company before, who said, "But we've written software to do that." And then they all threw money at it and blah, 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 blah. So
I think that was quite nice because actually you say that. I never knew that. That's quite interesting because you look at like Alex from Josh AI, same sort of thing.
Yes.
You look at Arno, Trinov,
yes.
same sort of thing. It's founders that sort of go, do you know what? Why is it not working how I want it to work?
Yeah.
And then they go, well, surely I could do this.
Yeah.
And then fast forward.
Yes.
And then you have. I mean, I've always said with Sonos are the Hoover of multi-room audio. You know, people come up to me and go, I want Sonos, and you'll go, okay, well look, there's nothing wrong with Sonos. We are a Sonos installer, but tell me a bit more about you.
What you need.
Because people refer to, I'm going to Hoover this afternoon. No,
Yeah,
using
and
a
they
vacuum.
may be using a Dyson,
Yeah, Dyson,
or whatever.
you're using a vacuum cleaner. So I think, one massive testament to Sonos is that, I think, they are the Hoover of the multi-room audio. Well, they really not invented, but mainstreamed multi-room audio.
I think we say that, what we are all about is listening to music out loud, and listening to music wherever you want to listen to music, all over your home. Whether you're in your living room, whether you're in your kitchen, whether you're in your bedroom, whether you're in your yard, in your patio, music is life. And we've done lots of scientific research on this. We know that having music playing is better in every single way. Food tastes better, life is better, people laugh more, people talk to each other more. And so we know that music is key to that. And when you think about it back in the day, everybody would have some sort of stack system with a turntable and a couple of tapes in it and a CD player and big black Japanese boxes. And that's where they got their music from. And then all of a sudden we came along, and that had died because of the MP3 player, because of the iPod.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, nobody was listening to music out loud again. So parents couldn't complain about their kids' music because they couldn't hear it. And so therefore, we were like, no. It's all about shared experience. You have to share the experience. And that's where we changed the way people listen to music. Yes, we've got competition today, but there was no competition back in the day because we were trying to change how people listen to music. And we achieved that. but it wasn't an easy sell in the first instance, because you either had people who, no, I still want to use my stack system, or you had the other generation that, no, I want to listen through this little metal box and have it in my ears. And we had to change the way they thought about listening to music.
It's funny because, like, I'm getting flashbacks now because go back to the bundle. I'm pretty sure when me and my wife lived in Winchelsea, near not a million miles where we live now, I can remember coming home with the bundle. I think I bought it from All Trade. Because they were back in my Sony days, and I got to know the guys at All Trade quite well in Brighton. And I remember sitting there with the 200, and my wife was like, "What, anything?" And I'm like, "Yeah, go on, name something." And she'd go like, "Michael Jackson." I went, "Yep." And then she'd be like, "Okay, all right, I got Bruce Hornsby." Yep. And I'll be like, she went, and I don't think I mean, this is before we had our daughter, but I don't think in a good hour and a half of sitting there, have we ever listened to so much music together as a couple in our 20 years marriage. But also I couldn't find anything that, or she couldn't suggest anything that we couldn't find.
No, exactly that. And it's parties, when we have parties and people go, "Have you got X, Y, Z?" Yes, I have. No, okay, that's streaming. That's not us per se. It's the streaming services that allow you to do that, but then it's how good it sounds or how you've got it playing in your home that makes the difference. And whether you're using an amp driving a pair of Sonos by Sonance Insignia speakers or many other branded Insignia speakers, or whether you are using our all-in-one Era 100s, Era 300s, 5s, etc., the sound has got to be right. There's no point just having a perfect system that can do it. It has to sound right at the same time. And we have a very unique way of doing that.
Well, I think, you go back to similar era, really. I remember looking at an Opus system or a System Line system, which was iPod docking in the wall. It was wires. And as you say, I think, with the wireless side of Sonos, going back to when it was the ZP90s, ZP120s, the 120 was the amp, wasn't it?
No, 120 was the amp, and the ZP90 was the port.
Was the port, yeah. So I remember doing many installs with the ZP120, and basically that would be on floor standings or ceiling speakers. And maybe the system was still there because you weren't going to rip out an Opus system. But clients were just like, "So do you mean I can party?" Yeah, so, you can party together. This is how you do it. And I think that's really when, so going back then, that was the catalyst of the first few products, wasn't it?
No, it really was. And it's what after we said, "Oh, I'll work for them for 2 years," it's what kept me involved. It's what drove me to stay with them, because we are very open as a company. I know what's coming 5 years from now. And that almost
exclusive.
That's why that's almost why I stay, because you see this stuff that's coming down the line. You think, well, I want to be here when that comes. And that was what we thought when we launched the first Play Bar.
So was the Play Bar before the Play 5?
So it came. So you had S5, which became Play 5. The one that sort of sat on a little foot, as per se. And then we had Play 3, which we don't talk about for some reason, but Play 3. Then we had Play 1. Then we had Sub. And then we had Play Bar.
Okay. I've still got a Play Bar. Come to my warehouse, my warehouse stroke gym, still up there playing out my music for me.
Still a phenomenal product. It really is a phenomenal product. When you put it up against an Arc, it looks dated, but there's nothing wrong with it. It still works. They still sound amazing.
Much to Sonos's detriment,
yes.
for I mean, obviously you do an upgrade.
We
program,
do an upgrade program
because they, like my Play Bar, it still works.
Yeah, no, it is. It's to a certain extent that's frustrating to a certain extent, because I know how good, say, an Arc Ultra is, but why would a client who's got an Arc want to upgrade to an Arc Ultra? Well, they have to hear it, But then you have to be accepted that, if somebody's got a Play Bar, they may not want to change it to an Arc or an Arc Ultra because, well, no, I paid that for that then. So we will do everything we can to try and coerce them into the new products, but no, not everybody's going to do that, because if it works, it works, and there's no need to change it. We know today there are still many, 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 many homes that have lovely little white boxes in their racks under the stairs driving all their home. And there's really no reason for them to change. Yes, ZP120 is only a 50 watt D-class amplifier, whereas amp is a 125 watt amplifier. There's a massive difference between what an amp can do and an old ZP120 can do. But if the client's happy with that system, why should we try and change it? And there's lots of updates going that will help those older systems work better than they do today.
So you'll have no compatibility issues between if you had an amp in and a ZP120?
You would. Well, no, to a certain extent you could have, because you can have an amp and a ZP120 in a rack all on the original software.
Okay.
And that means that it will stay as it is, it will get security updates, it will get some little updates coming to it, but it will you'd never be able to have a ZP120 in a rack and an Arc Ultra on your TV. They're two different systems.
Because the ZP120 won't do S2?
Precisely, won't do S2. We don't talk about S2 and S1 anymore, but you're right, absolutely that. So S1, S2, which has now evolved into the current app, means that anything that is new works beautifully together.
Okay.
Anything that is a bit older works beautifully together but can't work with the new stuff.
Okay.
And that's why we offer the upgrade program, to try and get people across the new stuff. But if it works, it works, and there's no real reason for them to change it, unless they want better sound quality or they want to have those new toys, they want to have the headphones or whatever else we may have coming down the line.
Well, it's like I literally was at a client's house the other day. I mean, it wasn't an upgrade, unfortunately, because it's the first customer I've ever turned around to and said, "Oh, you're moving. Where are you moving to?" And they went, "South Korea." Okay. They own a travel company, and they specialise in travel out in China and South Korea. So I've never had that in 20 odd years of being in this industry.
That's a unique situation.
But I can't remember why now, but I said to him, well, let get into your Sonos account for me to check something. So we logged into his Sonos account, and then it basically came up saying you've got 3 ZP120s, and this is how much we're going to give you if you trade in today for an amp.
Yeah.
So if we go forward to today, I won't get you to reel all the products off.
No.
But obviously you've got, so for the ZP120 replacement, you've got the amp, which is a brilliant product and looks my sort of AV porn. I'm going to get struck for saying porn, aren't I? My AV porn, which was like just beautifully in a rack, 14 zones of Sonos.
Hopefully labelled on the front. But no, I mean, I think...
labelled on the back.
No.
My OCD can't handle labelling on the front.
The client goes, it's not anyway. Yes, and an amp has just been put into the CEDIA Hall of Fame in Denver. It was whatever they say, put into the Hall of Fame as a unique, as an award-winning product. It is getting a bit old today, but it still works. And installers often say, "I want a new one. What do you want it? Do you want it more powerful? No. Well, do you want it? What else do you want it to do?" So it's a matter of, when we do launch new products, they're always extremes. They always leap. So the difference between a Connect amp and a amp is very different. It does so many things. It's it has TV compatibility with an HDMI socket. It has 125 watts. You can plug turntables into it. You can do all sorts of things to it. Whereas a ZB20, even though a lot of ZB20s were connected to TV, they had no lip sync. So whenever you put a ZP20 in a TV, there was no lip sync. As much as you think you could, you can't. Whereas an amp could go. So that was where amp. So that we have amp and we have port, which is our
not amped.
Yeah. So well, a port. If you imagine a port being exactly what a port is, it's where boats come in and out. So if a boat comes into port, it can either offload its cargo, i.e., put Sonos into something, or it's taking something into the boat, i.e. it's a turntable coming into Sonos, or it's a CD player coming into Sonos. And so that's what a port does. It does that sway. And it's got a really good DAC in it, and it has got a 12-volt trigger in it, so it will turn other things on. Okay. And we do work with other AVR products. We work with Sony and... Integra.
I remember seeing it. I did Integra last year, and I remember it says works with Sonos.
So there are many AVRs that can be integrated with Sonos with a built-in integration using our API, and that's what we call our architectural world. And then of course we do make Sonos by Sonance speakers, and they are Sonos speakers. They're not Sonance rebranded as Sonos. They are Sonos speakers manufactured by Sonance.
Okay.
So we do a 6.5 inch and 8 inch.
So it's not some guy at the back just peeling off the logo and putting new logo on.
It is not a whatever the Sonance ZP, whatever their coding are. It's not that. And we do a 6.5 and 8 inch and in-wall and outdoor speaker. And then we move into all-in-ones. And then we do home theatre. And we do portable. So there are categories
Okay.
that we work in.
So
today.
you literally, I mean, I was just saying to you before we started, you know, I had one of my neighbours, a retired couple. What type of system are you looking for? Oh, we know we want to update the TV and get decent sound on it because we're going a bit deaf. Margot, if you're watching this, I didn't say that. And then I want something in the kitchen, but it's got to work with an Amazon A. I'm not going to say the word. And it was like, oh, Sonos, because I know that we did I think they went from a 22-inch Sony to a 42-inch LG. I mean, it was like, and then when she came around my house, saw a 77, she's like, how can you sit in front of that? But we did a 42-inch TV with a beam.
Yeah, good system.
And then in the kitchen, we did I can't remember what it was now. We did the current version of the Play 5. With 5, yeah. With say a little A dot, and she could just walk in there and say, you know, play Apple classical music.
Yes.
And for her, it just worked.
Yes.
You know, and then I took her through the app because we sold her an iPad as well. I took her through the app, and what's great is, apart from waving at her when I walk the dog, I haven't spoken to her since. So it obviously works.
It works.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. And I think that, you know, voice was a big moment for us.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there we were, you know, doing really well with some really good numbers, selling all our products, everybody happy, and then along came voice. And as a company, we didn't see that coming. But within a year, we had voice on our system. So you can use all the voice control systems on most of our products. You can't on 5 because it has no microphone in it. But all our latest all-in-one products have microphones in them, so you can voice control all our systems.
Right.
Either using the A word or using the Sonos word. And the Sonos Voice is a very, very good way of operating our system if you are security aware, or you don't like the fact that you think the voice is going to listen into you. Sonos is a closed system, so if you use Sonos voice control, there is no cloud. It's all on the speaker.
See, because I'm not a fan of A, because I mean I usually tend to use S and not G. It's becoming a crypt. I'm going to put loads of little splashes up, aren't I? Because I'm not happy with the privacy policies of A and G.
It's you know, if you use Sonos Voice on our product, it's closed. It can't listen in. And way of testing that if you do have a branded puck, and you put it into mute, it glows red. It's still got power. It's still on. It's still listening.
Yeah.
If you use Sonos Voice and you don't want the microphone on, you turn the microphone off, that kills the power to the mic. The mic light goes off. There's no power. It cannot listen in. It cannot listen in. Only when you turn the microphone back on will it start listening again. But we really only want you to play music on us. So why would we want to know anything else? You know, what's embarrassing about saying that you like Barry Manilow, you know, whatever it may be.
Funny enough, I saw him on the news this morning.
But these are all the elements that we now have within our system that, if you think about it, you can voice control a ZP120 using a puck. Now, when ZP120, which effectively is a Connect amp, which is a ZP120, there was no way that anybody, when that product was manufactured, thought there was going to be voice control, ever.
No.
But you can voice control that product, yes, using a third-party device to do that.
Okay.
Or if you had a home that did have a One in it, which was the first product we ever made with voice control in it. If you had a One in a system and you had a rack with Connect amps in the system, you could tell that speaker to play music on whatever was being driven by that amp. Now, that amp was made in a world where it didn't come. And that's a bit like, why do we have a controller then and we don't have a controller now? Well, because we launched a free app. So it was either we'd spend millions of dollars developing another controller, or we just put it all on an app and make it free.
Which the money that you've invested into,
precisely,
what you've not invested
hardware,
into controller,
into hardware,
you can put into hardware.
Exactly. And so therefore, and even when the person who said we're going to do an app and we're going to make it free, you can imagine that conversation in the boardroom. But if we hadn't done that, again, we wouldn't have become the company we are today. And you know. And to a certain extent, I suppose we've hurt other companies because they go, we're going to charge for this. Well, but they don't. So therefore, and it's a way of us being able to update the system. I happen to drive an American electric car, and it updates all the time.
Yeah.
And so I get used to that world where things just update all the time, and our product updates all the time. We've just done an update for Arc Ultra. So we worked with the Royal National Institute for the Deaf of how hard it is for people with hearing loss to hear TV, to the extent they don't watch TV anymore. So we worked with AI technology with our Arc Ultra and with the Royal Institute for the Deaf to work on a way of making a soundbar increase the voices, increase the level of voice. So you've always had that nighttime mode and voice mode on our products. If you hit the voice on our app now, it gives you options. So you can have low to high.
Okay.
And I've seen video where it's put on high and somebody literally takes their hearing aid out of their ear and they can hear the TV. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. That's a free update. We don't charge for that. That's a free update that makes it possible for somebody to watch TV when they couldn't watch TV anymore because they couldn't hear it.
So not like the old boy that I remember doing back in the day for Sony,
Yeah.
who's probably no longer with us, he bought a 5.1 surround sound system from Sony with a new TV and went to install it. And he said, the guys in the shop said it could do multi-channel. I said, well, yeah, so every speaker says, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, what you do is you press this button. Why? He said, I can hear it at the moment, but both me and the wife are going deaf, and what we're thinking is we have surround right and surround left, and then we can do multi-channel. So literally, and I'm sitting there going, but the guy's face is going to be there, and his voice is going to be there.
There's a lot of misconceptions around surround sound or home cinema systems, particularly the Sonos home cinema system. A lot of people say that, oh, but I can't hear the rears. Yeah, you're watching the news.
Oh God, yes.
Or I can't do this. Well, yeah, because you're not watching something that's got surround sound.
If I had £1 for every time I got a phone call with that exact question, I'm watching South East News today,
and I can't hear it
in the rears. Well, it's not even in HD, my friend. So one, it's in SD, and you're a nice new HD TV.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly that. Exactly that. And it's getting technology to work together. Some TVs are better than others. We work better with some TVs than some other TVs. I won't say brands at the moment, but because of the way they manufacture their TVs and the way that they pass through Dolby Atmos, for example. They're very good. Some are very good at passing through Dolby Atmos. Others are not so good. I think for today, if you buy a new TV today, most of them will pass through Dolby Atmos.
I wish when Panasonic had was a big problem.
Yeah, it was.
That's my view, not Sonos's view.
I went from Panasonic to another brand because at the time Panasonic TVs couldn't do Dolby Atmos.
They stripped it,
and I had my first Arc, which did Dolby Atmos. I was like, this is insane. I've got a product that does Dolby Atmos, but I've got a TV. Yeah. So I then changed to a different brand that did pass through Dolby Atmos. Panasonic does now pass through. But these things are important for clients and customers to understand. If you haven't got the latest TV, don't buy the latest soundbar because, well, you can, but you won't get the benefit of the soundbar.
You won't get all the benefit
of it. You won't get the Dolby Atmos. And believe you me, when you hear Dolby Atmos, it's amazing. It really is amazing. Yes, if you have a lovely home cinema and you've got a big budget to spend tens of thousands of pounds on a proper home cinema, of course, that's what you should do. However, if you haven't got those budgets, you've just got a living room and you want to have a decent surround sound system, ours is pretty decent, to say the least. And it does give you phenomenal Dolby Atmos sound, either with an Arc Ultra on its own, or whether you add subs and rear speakers to get the whole experience.
Well, if anybody's watched any of the previous pods, like especially the ones I sit down with Simon Gregory and have a conversation about, I think both of us, and I think, a lot of people say, you can't get Dolby Atmos from a soundbar. And it's like, well, if you got 50 to 100,000, 25,000, and you're going to build a room like we're in now or like we've got next door, then you're not going to use a soundbar.
Yes.
But I am a big fan of putting like Dolby Atmos into soundbars because it makes the client aware.
Precisely. It's a matter of awareness. And there are clients that have got there are more clients that have smaller budgets than there are other clients that have large budgets.
Who still want good sound.
And they still want good sound. You know, it's the under £10,000 bracket. It's the under £10,000 where I want a 65, 75-inch screen. I want decent surround sound, and maybe I want a bit of light control. You know, you can do that for around £10,000, or you can do it for £100,000. If the client's got that budget, cool, go for it. But understand the client at the end of the day, and don't make clients get frightened by what you're offering them.
Well, I always remember going to an event in Dolby in Soho, and I think it was with Sony, and they had this table, and it was like their first ultra short throw, which, funnily enough, I don't think they make one now, but it was an ultra short throw projector with a sound bar built into it. And I remember talking to Stuart Tickle from AWE and saying, I don't get it. Well, who's it for? And he said, it's for the person that rents a penthouse, because it was 25 grand. It's for the person that rents a penthouse in central London that may be from America.
Yeah.
And he buys it, he beams it on the wall, it's a 4K image, and then when he moves, he puts it in a crate and he moves it to his next flat.
Yes.
And I think you're right. You know, we have many clients that we do Sonos for, because it is that case. They want a 77-inch TV, they want a good sound system, or they might not even have the money to do it straight away. They can upgrade over time, but they haven't got the budget to spend 30, 40 plus on the home cinema.
If they're in their first home or even their second home, you know, they're probably not going to have the space to put, you know, they're going to have the basement or the loft or the shed at the end of the garden, the room at the end of the garden, to do something with. They live in a more conventional home. There's a limit to what they can do. Yes, as they get older and their lives expand and they end up in big houses, it becomes very different. But of course, that's not everybody anyway. Not everybody gets to that sort of pocket of cash. And you know, now you've got projectors that have HDMI ARC connectivity. So now you can have a projector. You could have a Hisense short throw projector, and you can have a Sonos surround sound system. You don't have to have a TV. You could have a projector and do the same thing.
And you don't have to use the speaker that's built into the projector.
Precisely. And you know, that's why people like Hisense want to work with us. And that's why other mans want to work with us, because you know, Sony's a very good Works with Sonos partner. And you think, well, they make their own audio, but they know that we sound really good. So they want to work with us because we sound really, really good. Yes, they make, with our sound bars were £1,000. Arc is £1,000. They make speakers for free. You know, you can get it free when you buy a TV. Now, that's going to be a very different sounding system. It's going to be better than a TV, because TV is as thin as a pancake. You can't make it sound decent. But it's understand the client's budget at the end of the day. We make Ray for the kids' bedrooms. We make Beam, as you said, for those smaller TVs, the 42 inches, which does do Dolby Atmos in a software way. And then we have Arc Ultra, which does have whatever it's got now, 16 drivers in it.
So you still do Arc and then Arc Ultra?
We don't do Arc anymore.
Arc's
There's a
gone
few
now,
Arcs left in the marketplace, but Arc Ultra is now coming up to a year old nearly.
I was about to ask what's the difference. The difference is the new version.
Arc Ultra does have a subwoofer built into it.
Okay.
So Arc Ultra uses a bit of technology that means we can get a subwoofer that's about that big inside an Arc, so it doesn't need a sub. And then it has, I think total, it has 16 drivers, you know, upward firing, left, right firing, Dolby Atmos firing. And then if you add subs, one or two subs, it's still going to be a 9.1. It's sub, 9.1. So it's using the subs, 1, 2 subs and its built-in sub. And then if you go rears, it's still going to be 9.1.4.
Right.
Because what it then goes for, it's got 9 drivers. It's got 4 upward firing speakers, 2 from the back, 2 from the rear, and it's got subwoofers. And that's how you can build the system up. Okay. You can either have an Arc Ultra on its own, if the room dictates that. If you're in a normal living room, an Arc Ultra on their own is going to be fine. Bigger rooms, then you make the decision. Do you want to go the whole hog all in, or do you want to add the subs, or do you want to add the rears and then the subs, or the subs and then the rears? But that's the whole advantage of Sonos. You can go for it.
You can add. Yeah,
exactly.
It's not like a... It's not like an all-in-one box solution.
Precisely, exactly. Or you could have an amp connected to a TV, driving a pair of towers or ceiling speakers, and another amp driving the rear speakers. You're only going to get 4.0, add a subwoofer 4.1, but you're still going to get some form of surround sound. Not true surround sound, but you're going to get front and rear sound. So there are options depending on what the client wants. If he's got a pair of vintage, careful B&W speakers that he wants to drive, well, he could use an amp and still have the TV coming through them. Or he wants to go the modern route with a big 75-inch TV that sits on the wall with an Arc Ultra underneath it. There are options that can have.
So before we get on to like the Home Cinema Alliance and CI and everything like that, we've just talked about the brands. You've been kind enough to put up a little Christmas present for our viewers, and for our viewers mainly, because it's going to be, if you're listening to this on audio, it's going to involve interaction with YouTube, unfortunately, because I can't do this on a audio podcast platform. But Sonos are going to give away a little Christmas present.
Yes, we will.
Beer in it is currently October. By the time this goes up, it's probably bordering on November. So what I will do is have a conversation with Stephen about what we're going to give away. And I will put that on the screen now, or I will hold that in my hands now, but it'll be a nice little Sonos Christmas present. If you look in the description of this video, we'll tell you what to do. I'm going to hide a couple of numbers around us somehow in post-editing, like a little PIN number. It's not Stephen's card PIN number, or how you drive his car or get into his house or anything like that.
Or the PIN number on the back of our amp.
It's not the last 4 digits of his credit card or anything like that. I'm going to put 4 numbers in the video around us. It could be here, it could be here, it could be there. And then click on the link in the description. Put your details in so we can contact you, not on YouTube, but on the link. And then, hopefully we'll give you something. We'll close it maybe a week or 2 before Christmas. So we could try and get it to you before Christmas, but we're not promising anything because of postage and all that.
It should be able to be, but none of that should be a problem.
Excellent. So, well, thank you for that.
Pleasure.
And we'll mention it in a podcast in the new year, the winner, and maybe get a photograph of the winner holding something to make sure you don't think it's gone into my house, in my daughter's bedroom. So we had a conversation, Edinburgh or Leeds, CEDIA Business Summit. And
we did.
We sat and had a conversation I had a conversation with Dan at Hidden Home Tech, and he wasn't slating Sonos, but he gave his view on Sonos. And I remember coming up to you and saying, look, there's a podcast coming out next week. It's not my opinion, it's not the HCA's opinion, it's not the HCA members' opinion, it's Dan's opinion. Yes, I'm talking about you, Dan. So going into CI, because obviously we are the Home Cinema Alliance, and a lot of people watching this might go, oh, I don't do Sonos, they don't support CI, there's no margin in the product. How can Sonos benefit the custom installation industry and help them utilize the product, make margin, and put these awesome products in people's homes?
That's a very, very good point. And we're not perfect. However, if you actually interact with us, so you buy from one of our selected distributors, and we are selectively distributed in the United Kingdom, we don't sell direct. So as long as you deal with one of our selected distributors and you have a good relationship with one of the account managers from one of those distributors.
And can you say who they are?
I can. They are Habitech and All Trade and the Midwich Group.
Okay.
And they will help you. Yes, we're not a high margin product. However, if you take AMP, for example, you can't buy AMP in a mainstream retailer. You can't buy it in John Lewis's, you can't buy it in Curry's, you can't buy it in Argos, because it's an exclusive product for the Pro channel. Same with Port, same with Era 100 Pro. And if you speak to a distributor about Era 100 Pro, you'll know that we've added more margin.
Right.
Yeah? And then we may or may not have something in Barcelona for you all to come and see in February next year.
I see, yep.
Again, it will have more margin. Because we understand that. We understand that if you install an Era 100, there's not a lot of money in that. It's a cheap product. But if you install an Arc and subs and Era 300s, it's more money. There's more margin involved in that. If you install an amp with a pair of ceiling speakers, whether ours or other people, the blended margin of that suddenly becomes very good. But I'd also say we should never be your main product. Sonos is never going to be your biggest. We have a lot of installers come, oh, I'm only going to do Sonos. No, you're not, because you won't make any money. You will go bust. We're going to be part of an installation. Now, whether you're doing a Crestron installation and you want to use a port, or you're doing Control 4 installation and you want to use a port, those still bring Sonos into that installation with all the benefits of Sonos. For reliability, the fact that you never have to go back, the fact that we have very good customer care, the fact that it just works in any way the client wants it to work. So we've just done the update with the Control 4 panel. So you can now search for music on Sonos.
Thank you.
On a Control 4 panel. And so if you want to have a Control 4 panel or other branded control systems, you can now search all of them. And therefore that will then control the system. The client never has to use our app. And we're not paranoid about that. Use our app, direct play, use a third-party controller. What happens is they all work in synergy.
Well, I noticed at EI Live recently you had a plethora
of
control,
I had
control
Control 4,
there.
RTI, URC, and NICE. And then not forgetting Rhythm.
Oh yeah, because Rhythm do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
In a slightly different way. Yep.
Yeah, because I mean, I think I get Dan's point of a product that makes you 10%, let's say, there's not the margin there. But as you said, and it's the same, I'm never going to sell a small speaker to a client unless they're a regular customer or a neighbour. You're going to sell a set of in-ceilings with an amp, and the in-ceilings you are going to make 30 to 60 depending on the brand.
And I have, because that conversation comes a lot, and a lot of installers do say, but I only make 5-10%. Where are they buying it from? You know, where are they buying it from? Because there are many places you can buy it from and get more than double that in margin. And if you then add, as you say, the 55% margin you can make on ceiling speakers, it becomes very profitable. You know, we do run a tiered margin structure. So we have margin for our all-in-ones, because that's what everybody sells. We have margin for our premium products, which includes the amp and the port. And then we have or architectural margin, and then we have accessories margin. Again, if you start to really talk to your distributor and work on what you need to do, you'll be surprised at how much you make. Bear in mind, we're reliable. You know, you don't have to go back. Clients aren't going to phone you up every Friday night saying, my system doesn't work. Or if they do say that, something's gone wrong. But it's rare that happens.
Well, also, if you've done let's say a little cinema system, a little surround sound system in the client's lounge, and their daughter's now 13, 14, then potentially, and then the next service call you have coming along, oh, your daughter's now 15. I'll tell you what, should we get her a little speaker for her bedroom?
And that's it. It's upsell, upsell, upsell. And it's always people, people say, oh, you direct sell. Well, if you fill every room in the house, we can't sell them anything else. And yes, if somebody has bought something from a mainstream retailer, and if we direct mail to them, they're probably going to buy it from us. But if somebody's had a system installed by an installer, it's rare they're going to buy it from anybody than the installer. Or that installer didn't fill the home with Sonos when they did the original home. In an installer world, the number of products sold is far greater per install, far greater than that in our retail side of our business, or even our D2C business. Because installers are very good at listening to what clients need and fulfilling the needs of that client, which is not a single speaker downstairs and a single speaker upstairs. It's a matter of making sure that the system works properly for them. But what I would say to any installer that has a bit of a problem with us, where are you buying it from? Who do you deal with? If you're not dealing with Habitech or Alltrade or the Midwich Group, then or Exertis today, then you're not going to be getting the best service.
What we said earlier whilst we were having a coffee, was that, like Alltrade sent me a couple of weeks ago an offer, and I looked at that. I don't carry a lot of stock. I'm not a high street shop, but I will always carry, I'll always have an amp and maybe a beam, because, people like Habitech here or Alltrade, they do every now and again say, oh, by the way, you're now earning X, or buy X and get X and things like that.
Yeah.
So
and it's like anything in this world, the more you buy, the better it gets.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. If you're only going to buy one product every 6 months, well, you're not going to make any money. But if you're using us in sort of 50% of your installations, you'll suddenly be surprised at how much you do order in, and then you'll get a different experience when you speak to your distributor about what they can offer you. But it's also looking at what you can work with. If you deal with Habitech, for example, they sell Lutron. Lutron's a great partner of ours. They sell RTI. RTI is a fantastic control system that works with us. If you deal with Alltrade, they do RA2 So they still do Lutron, and they do Nice, and they do the Integra AVR. They do products that all work together. And therefore, if you start to use us as a backbone of an installation, but you then add on these other toys onto it that work beautifully with us, then all of a sudden you have got a problem-free installation. You are making money. And as I say to everybody, if you've got a problem and you don't come to me, how can I help you?
Yeah.
You know, I don't hide behind a bush. I make myself pretty available.
Well, you've been all the CDA
I
Tech
do all the
Summits this
CDA Tech
year.
Summits. I do EI Live. I will be at ISE. You can't always get me because I'm always being interviewed at ISE, but I will be at ISE. And so I do make myself readily available to people to have a conversation with.
Are you doing the All Trade show?
I will be doing the All Trade
So
show.
that's probably, actually, to be honest, that's probably going to be gone by the time this comes out. But
I was at the All Trade show.
You were at the All Trade show.
And I'll be at the All Trade show in Manchester next year.
Okay.
Because they're going back to the Manchester venue next year. So yeah, I try and make myself available to anybody. You can find me on LinkedIn and several other social medias. If you don't know who I am or you don't know how to get hold of me, you will know somebody who does.
Speak to Habitech or All Trade.
Speak to Habitech or All Trade. Or speak to one of your fellow installers. It's likely that somebody
I won't put your telephone number
I do
here.
not put my telephone number on there. But it's a matter of yes, I am one. You know, I am one person. I have several colleagues on my retail side of my business, but it's me for the pro channel, and so therefore I can't get everywhere all the time. But I don't ever hide. If my phone rings, I'll answer it. And if you've got a problem or you think you've got a problem, then phone me up. Yeah. Or text me or WhatsApp me or whatever, because I will try and help you in any way I can. And I urge you all to come to Barcelona in February.
Yeah, well, I know we mentioned that we might do a pod in the new year.
Yes, exactly.
An embargoed pod where I've got to keep my mouth shut for a few weeks.
Yes,
like we did with Trinov recently.
Yeah.
It's great. I love doing it, but I'm not a gossip spreader. But you know, it's like, oh my god, I can't tell you anything about it. But just come to Barcelona.
No. You will all know what it is before you get on a plane to Barcelona.
So again, a bit like Trinov recently, they released it at the end of August for CDA Denver.
Yep.
Okay, so that's good. So that's something to look forward to. So, I mean, recent changes with Sonos. Obviously, we've got this coming up. I know a lot of people are probably going to be screaming at the video TV, going, talk about the app. And I must admit, as we were saying earlier, I'm a periodic Sonos user because I do mainly dedicated cinemas. And I've used the app last year, and actually I didn't find anything wrong with it. But you listen to friends of ours like the guys at hometech.fm, you know, Owen and Tom have talked about it, and you listen to people going, you know, oh my God, the app, what have they done? It's terrible, blah, 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 and all this lot.
I think, no, and rightly so to a certain extent. We did, shall we say, take our eyes off the boil, if you such. There was no, everybody thinks we had to change it because of X. We didn't. We just needed a new way of controlling our system that would propel us into the future. For toys that are coming down the line, that we need this new software that will do what it needed to do. Now, was that software right to launch at the time? Probably not. There's no doubt that there was a bit of a wind behind the noise around it. You know, I knew there were installers complaining about the new app that didn't install Sonos. And that I knew they'd never installed Sonos, but they were still complaining about us. But again, my phone was very busy at that time, but it could have been even busier because I would have conversations with people. I would explain what was going on. I'd explain timelines. And here we are today, and it's better than it's ever been. App today is better than any of our apps have ever been. But we're not saying that's it. We'll keep investing. We'll keep developing it. We'll keep making it better and better and better. But to your point, there were people that totally unaware there was anything going wrong last year because they direct play. They direct play from Spotify, or they direct play from Tidal, or they direct play from Kubos, or whatever it is, or they were using a third-party device to control us, and therefore they never entered the app, never came into their world, or they don't have an automatic update, so it never updated anyway. Whereas today, it's brilliant and it works amazingly. However, we don't say you have to use it.
No.
Yes, it's what you used to set us up in the first place, but once you've done that, we're not paranoid about that. We make it possible for you to control us in a myriad of different ways, whether it's voice control, whether it's third-party device control, whether it's direct play from the streaming services, or whether it is via our app. But the only thing about it is you could, if you start it one way and then change to another way, it all works in sync.
So it's two-way control, basically.
Kind of, yeah. No, it is. You know, if you have an app in your phone with the room on it and the volume control in front of it, and you say, "Hey Sonos, play the living room louder," you'll see it go up.
Okay.
Same principle. If you use the volume control on the top of our product, you'll see it go up. That's how it all works in harmony with itself. But there's no doubt about it. Last year was interesting. And it has meant we've had some changes within our organisation. We have a new CEO who is now 6 months into role. I can't remember. Okay. So Tom's our new CEO. Very good guy from product background, which is good. And we have a whole new product organisation as well. And we do have a lot of product people that only work on product for the Pro channel. So there are people who work on the stuff for retailers and all-in-one product, but then we do have a lot of people in product management and software management that only work on toys for the Pro channel. We don't develop product 300 a year. You know, it takes us a long time to make product, but believe you me, it's what we've got coming down the line is very exciting for the Pro channel.
So could we see now? Again, this is, I know nothing about what's coming down the line. So could we see like a, could that be something that might come down the line?
I can't comment. You can.
But it's sort of thing they might be looking into.
You can think, you know, if you're an installer and you think what you want us to make, it's extremely unlikely that we haven't thought of that.
Okay.
We'll always try and make it better than what you think you want, because often installers will say to me, you know, I want a new amp. Well, what do you want it to be? You want it to be more powerful? No. You want it to have this? No. Well, what do you want it to be then?
You want it to be white?
What do you want? No. You know, so we hear what everybody says, and believe you me, you won't be disappointed when something does come to market. I'm not saying what's coming. I'm not saying in what order it's coming. Other than you'll see the first one in a few weeks' time in Barcelona.
Okay. I mean, as I say, because I'm not a massive Sonos supplier, but I have been aware and used Sonos ever since those early days of like sitting at my kitchen table with my wife, and you do see that iteration. And you know, and as a person that's installed those to play bars, to arcs, to beams, and things like that, I'll tell you an interesting story about a play bar, which will make you laugh and it will make me look really, really bad. You remember how you had a play bar and then you had the divot behind it at the top? And then so I was doing an install in Tunbridge. I was putting it below the TV, and I can't remember why now, but I think the wall was chased out slightly, and I remember picking up the bar and looking at it and going, oh bugger, that I've done it the wrong way round. And I'm like, well, that'd be fine, but then the Sonos logo will be upside down. And it was only at that point I looked at the Sonos logo and went, "Oh yeah,
that is probably the most, you know, people that get Sonos for the first time and then they meet me. And they
there's
go,
loads of people now looking at their Sonos product.
Did you know if you turn it upside down, it's the same? Is it? Oh, no, it's still, even today people say that. And if you've got a Roam, you know, you turn it that way and that way, it reads the same way.
Yeah.
But yes, it's not an uncommon thing to say.
It's one of my most famous moments of just like, oh, you absolute spanner. Because there was that moment where I'm like, oh no, I've messed this up. Because at that time it was the optical and the power was going to it and all this lot. And I'm like, oh my God, I've messed it up. And I've already chased it out and I've already plastered it in.
But it also had a system in it that knew which way around it was. So if you had it that way around and then you turned it around, it would change.
Okay.
Because it knew that it was effectively upside down. You can't do that on ARC, but you could on Playbar, because it could either be underneath the TV or above the TV.
Yeah.
And if it was above the TV, it needed to point down.
That
if it was below the TV,
seriously
it
play my OCD, that word. I can't, that's where like the world of invisible speakers I like, because if there's like, you can't see it on camera, but there's a TV here, and if I had to put a speaker above that TV, it would just do my OCD in something chronic. So, okay, so we'll look, wrapping things up. Is there, before we get onto some fun questions, is there anything else you want to touch on with Sonos going forward, out to the consumer, out to the CI, before we sort of wrap up the podcast and get onto some fun questions?
Okay, no, all I would really say is if you are an installer, put your hand out for a handshake. Come and say hello when I'm at the CEDIA Tech Summits, or I'm at EA Live, or I'm at ISE, or I'm at the all trade shows, or wherever I pitch up. Do come and introduce yourself. I don't know all of you. I know who you are. I don't necessarily who you are, if you understand me. I know what your company is. It's likely I've heard of your company. I may not know you. So do come and make yourself a friend to me. And therefore, I will be able to help you in the future. As far as consumers, our products are good, and they are really good. And they can make a massive difference in your life if you have them in the home, particularly if you like music, or even if you don't like music. You can use podcasts, you can do anything. You can just enhance your TV listening experience by having our products in your home. But if you do have one of our soundbars on your TV, don't forget that is a phenomenal music system. Yes, it does phenomenal things for your TV, but it's an amazing system for your music. And it's amazing how many customers have our soundbars but never play music through them.
Really?
It's astounding how that happens. And it's like, well, you didn't buy from an installer because they would have told you that. But a lot of people buy them because they're worried about the sound of the TV. And somebody has said, buy this because it'll make your TV sound much better. Not incorrect, but they don't think about it being a Sonos speaker.
And I don't think they realise how easy it is to switch between the two. The TV
Precisely,
will switch it.
Yeah, the TV will switch it. It all works with the TV remote control. But I've even witnessed, I've been to friends' homes and they've had a Sonos soundbar on their TV, and they've had a party and they brought speakers down from the bedroom. And I was like,
Really?
why have you done that? Well, because I want to play music. Yeah, but you've got a soundbar. Yeah, that's for the TV. No.
Come and sit next to Stephen and I'll show you how it works.
No, they're my friends, not my good friends, but my friends. So
They were good friends. They're no longer.
No, don't talk to them anymore. So those conversations all happen all the time. So make sure you keep your system updated. Always have automatic updates. That's important. And most of our updates enhance the system. So even though we will launch a product, you could argue that when we launch a product, it's really, really good, but it's only ever going to get better because we will work on software to make it better over time. And then it's a free update. So make sure you always have automatic updates on there, and then make sure that you use an installer to install your product into your home so it's installed properly.
Well, you've also, going to the high street is fine, but when you speak to Billy at a shed on an industrial somewhere, you're not going to get to speak to Billy again. And unfortunately, I've had experience with some of the big stores where after 30 days, they won't even speak to you again.
But this is something I've heard a lot of. And to say nothing against our retail partners out there, they do a very good job for us. But there's a big difference about buying a single Era 100 and buying a multi-room Sonos system. And to have an installer install that into your home, where you have all the hassle of that taken away from you, making sure that you've got the right Wi-Fi box in your home to control it.
Oh yeah.
Because that's another conversation we could have for a long time over.
That could do another hour.
We could do another hour. I think that's where the world works. And installers say to me, but you don't need us. Yes, we do. The installer market for us is a big business. I don't get paid my salary because I only turn over £100 a year. I do a multi-million-pound turnover, and I only deal with installers. And so therefore you are a very important part of our world, and it's how I earn my living. But more than that, we will always be multi-channel. We always will be. That's who we are. But you will find more toys come down the line that you can't buy on our website. You can't buy in retail, that you can only buy from an installer.
Which is good to hear. And actually, talking directly to a consumer, do reach out to a HCA member, do reach out to a CDM member, because I literally have had, last few weeks, I've had a client that's got an issue with an LG TV. Now, I make no margin on LG TVs. I have LG TV and I have no problems with mine. And I've gone, and he's a very, very busy man. So I've gone to LG's website, I've registered the fault and said, could you call him? Now, I've not charged for that, I'm not getting enough of that. But this guy spent a lot of money with me and he continues to spend money with me.
And he'll remember that.
And actually, if you do want an Arc Ultra or you do want a sub £10,000 cinema, then reach out to a CI member, because actually you've also got another company's phone number.
Yeah.
They may use a service like Parasol, or
Yeah.
you might be able to pick
Yeah.
them up and speak to them directly.
Yeah.
But for the CI member, they can then future sell. In the same way that we do off of TVs.
And that's worth pointing out. We now have an online version of our app.
Yeah.
And as long as an installer knows the username and password of a Sonos system, he can remotely access that system. It's not full remote control. You never know what's coming down the future. But if a client wakes up and says something's not working, if he knows the username and password and he goes on playsonos.com and then he adds that username and password, he will see that client system and he'll know whether something's not working. Obvious, if one's gone off, it's not connected anymore, well, the power's turned off.
So you go to that website, log in with their details.
Yes, that's right. And multiple times. So you could have it where it's controlling your system at home off a laptop, but then you just log out, log back in with their username, and it will show you their system.
Yeah, because obviously that's something, I mean, personally, we deal with Control 4 and oversee, and that's
yes,
great,
yes,
because
yes.
sometimes people will phone me up and say, my Sky Q box is not working, and I'll look at it and go, it's because it's turned off.
Yes.
Just press the button, turn it back on again.
So it's not full remote management. I said, you never know what's coming down the line, but it does give you the ability to at least have a look at a system when you're not in the home anymore. And it will give you some, if it's a obvious problem, as an installer, you should be able to work that out. Yes, if it needs to have a service call, I urge anybody to use the support within the app, because that does go AI, but it's a very good AI. It got us out of a lot of trouble last year with our app problems. So if you go for support via the app, that is first grant.
Okay.
If the AI can't help you, you'll then get triggered to a real person. We do still employ real people, but the AI can get you out of a lot of problems. But that's via the app. And then don't ever call our support as an installer and not have a diagnostic number.
Okay.
And then complain that they thought you were an end user. Hello, I'm Bob. Here's my diagnostic number. That would let customer support know that you're probably going to be a bit more than a person in the street.
And if you're a consumer watching this podcast and your Sonos isn't working, have you just changed your Wi-Fi supplier?
Precisely.
Because Mr. Insert ISP here has not gone round and changed all your SSIDs everywhere. That's generally the first. I literally had a service call the other day, and the ISP had changed the IP range. So rather than using 192.168.0, they started using .1. Guess why nothing in the house worked? So all I did was go in there and change it back again.
Such a common thing. I've changed my Wi-Fi. I've changed from X to X and nothing works anymore. There's a reason for that.
That'll be what I did Control 4 by package all those years ago. Because 80% of the service calls were network based.
Yeah. And I would say that's true today for us. I would say that probably 90% of our customer care calls will relate to non-Sonos problems, generally networking.
Yep.
And then there's that, as we've said before, there's the whole what's internet and what's Wi-Fi.
And even better reason to go for a custom installer to get your Sonos installed, because they know or at least they should know how to do a Wi-Fi network.
They should know to do your Wi-Fi system, please God they do.
Yeah.
And they will be able to advise you. Yes, you may have to pay a little bit more money, but then do remember that you didn't pay anything for your router you got at home that doesn't work. So.
Yeah, and we are back all the way from the days of Sky boxes that were, well, if Sky are paying Amstrad £50 for this box, Amstrad's sitting there going, we got to make this for a tenner, babe. Yeah, there's always that free thing that is free for a reason.
No, exactly that. Yeah, no, precisely that. And well, we'll have another conversation about it. But no, it's certainly something to look at.
Awesome. So get on to a little bit of fun. So 2 questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me something which people might not know about you personally.
Okay. Apart from I'm getting very old, the one thing that a lot of people don't know about me, that are not in my very, very tight social circle is that I'm a very good cook.
Nice.
And I cook some very good food. As I said myself, I am passionate about wine. And so I'm a very good person to have if you need wine ordering for you. So that is my passion. I've got 2 big grown-up boys now who don't live at home anymore. One of them recently got married. So I do live with my beautiful wife, and we love traveling.
So you're empty nesters now.
Empty nesters, even though the oldest one does come back and again because he's moved to Wales but lives in London. Works in London but lives in Wales.
You said boys. As a boy, I've been back 2 or 3 times, and one of those was with my wife and dog at the time.
Yeah, exactly that. So we are finding that we have a lot more time on our hands, and therefore we are travelling a lot more. And that's it. But no, for me, it is. I adore cooking. It's one of the things that really gets me buzzing. It's how I relax. Yes, I do enjoy Formula One, and it was great to see McLaren win the World Championship.
And George win him.
Yes, and George win the
winning.
race, exactly. Some Brits winning, which was very, very good. And I'm a big rugby union fan.
Okay. Excellent. No, we should do another podcast on wine because not a lot of people don't know about me. Is that I'm a trained wine. I didn't quite get to sommelier. I didn't do the higher, but I did the WSET and I did the degree or whatever it was. Because years ago I used to own a wine merchant.
It's not just about looking at the top shelf in the supermarket. It's knowing what you're buying.
And considering I now don't drink as well.
No, which I hear.
Yeah, which I now don't drink as well.
I don't drink as much as I did, but I couldn't say I don't drink anymore.
No, I do miss a nice glass of Centimiliano.
Yes.
And I'm glad that my mother and father-in-law don't live in the south of France and I have to drive past Bordeaux. Right, so one last question. We are the Home Cinema Alliance and we focus on cinemas. What's your favourite film, or what's some of your favourite films that have something you go back to or have a lasting...
So I said I've been around for a long time. So I do like quite a lot of those old Michael Caine type thrillers.
Okay.
But then today I'm a big fan of fun. And what I mean by that is things that have really good sound to them, not surprisingly. So things that are cinematographic. So Dune, for example. The soundtrack on Dune Dune 2 is unbelievable. And often that's where I will go today. It will be what's got a phenomenal soundtrack on it. And therefore, how do you get that real experience from it? But genre-wise, if I'm going to go and watch something, I will probably pick up something like an old James Bond movie or an Indiana Jones or something like that. That will be where my comfort is.
All right, I tried to do it last year and I downloaded them all onto Kaleidoscope. Was that I want to sit and watch all the Indiana Jones.
Yes.
Maybe not the latter ones.
No, not the latter ones.
No,
but the originals. Yeah.
But the originals. There's a program I've just been watching just recently, which was very sort of like treasure hunt. And there's something for me that I just love that whole Indiana
genre.
Jones.
But they all go back to Indiana Jones. But no, that whole genre of treasure hunters and who knows what. There's a lot of it around. Some of it good, some of it not so good. But no, there's original. It's the age I am. It's the original Indiana Joneses that I watched as a young man.
And as an F1 supporter, have you watched the F1 movie?
I haven't yet.
No, nor have I.
I am going to. I think it's gonna. I have a feeling it's gonna be a bit more like the Maverick film. It has a similar storyline to it, and nothing wrong with Maverick, of course. Fantastic sound system, soundtrack to it. But no, it's something that I will be watching. I don't go to the cinema as much as I used to, funnily enough. So often I do wait for it to come onto the streaming services.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure if I go back to the video that I've been editing this weekend, Stuart Tickle watched it, and I think he said he watched it in IMAX, and he said that was a sensory explosion.
Yeah, exactly. Like anything, I know that I've got a very good system. I do have the Arc Ultra, I have subs, I have Era 300s as rears, but I know that if I went and sat in one of the other cinemas in this building, I'll be blown away by it. And to the same extent, if I go to a really good IMAX cinema, you're going to be blown away from it. But it's all relative. It's what you can have and what you can afford to have in your own home.
It's also relative of what you can put up with.
Precisely.
I can't go to commercial cinemas. I think is it Stelios, the Easy guy?
Yeah.
He had some cinemas which
Yeah.
were called Easy Cinemas, and they weren't selling food. Now, that to me, that was heaven. Maybe if they'd opened one up in East Sussex, I would have gone to it. But for me, it's like the Minecraft movie just recently.
Yeah.
I saw something on social about the cleaner cleaning the aisles, and there was so much popcorn you could have filled a bag back up.
And not good popcorn.
Overpriced popcorn. I mean, if I was the parent of said child, saying, that cost me 20 quid, did you really spill that on the floor?
Yes. Yeah, it's very
Brilliant.
true. Very, very true.
Awesome. Well, look, thank you very much, Stephen.
Stuart, thank you so much.
It's been awesome to have you. We'll touch base again in the new year,
We will do.
before
Yes.
ISE.
Yes, we will.
And hopefully some of the people watching this, obviously ISE is Integrated Systems Europe, is a trade show. So you do need to be a member of the public to see it.
Not a member of the public to see it.
Sorry?
Not a member of the
Not
public.
sorry,
to see
not a member of the public. So you have to be within the trade.
Trade, you
within
do.
the trade, or know a friend who is in the trade
Exactly
that can
that.
get you in. I didn't say that. But thank you very much.
Pleasure.
And thanks for stopping.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Stuart.
Cheers, mate.
Take care.